This is the new NotebookLM, and I know it looks exactly the same as the old NotebookLM, but under the hood, they've added something incredible that's going to completely change the way that you use it. With added agentic capabilities and the power to create PDFs, PowerPoints, and other files directly from the chat, this is now the most powerful NotebookLM we have ever seen. I've been using this to analyze data, identify missing revenue opportunities, and so much more. If you're a fan of NotebookLM, trust me, you're going to want to know about all of these new updates and everything you can do with it. There are two parts to this update. Let's start with the part that's easier to understand. And to demonstrate this, I'll use an example. Let's say I'm looking to open a gym where I live, and I'm trying to decide between an independent startup and a franchise business model. As I'm sure you know, when you create a new notebook in NotebookLM, you can manually add any sources, or you can use the research tool on the left to find sources. That's what I've done here with this notebook. And as I'm sure you also know, over here on the right, you can use these sources to create different artifacts. Here, for instance, I've created this slide deck. I've also created this infographic and this data table. These artifacts are great, but you're a bit limited in how you can use them. This data table, for instance, can be exported to Google Sheets, but not to an Excel file. The slide deck can be exported to a PowerPoint, but it really just creates static images on it. You can't change anything. This new update fixes that. Using the chat here in the middle, you can create PDFs, docs, Excel files, PowerPoints, and charts just by asking for them. Let's try it out. I'll come into the chat and ask it to create a PowerPoint for me that I can use as a pitch deck for local investors for my new gym. A few minutes later, and we now have our PowerPoint over here on the right. Unlike any artifacts you create with the native studio buttons, these are download only. So when I click on this, it will not open inside of NotebookLM. Instead, it'll be downloaded to my computer. Then you can either open it with PowerPoint or upload it into Google Slides like I did here. And this is what it looks like. And unlike the presentations that are made natively with Studio, you can edit any of this. So you can move around the text, you can change any of it if you want to, and it looks very professional. Let's try something else though. I'll come back to the chat now and tell it to take this same research and to create an Excel file with all the likely projections. And a few minutes later, here's our new Excel file. Just like before, this is download only, but you can upload it into Google Sheets. And here's what that looks like. But if you're only focused on these new file formats, you're only tapping into 10% of what makes this update so incredible. Before we get to the other 90% though, let's hear from today's sponsor because it is very relevant to today's video. If you look at my NotebookLM, you'll notice that there are a few things here that you don't have. For instance, I have this button that allows me to download any sources, and this button that will export everything I've created inside of Studio. This is not part of today's update. Instead, all of these were added by this Chrome extension called Cortex, and Cortex is the sponsor of today's video. This will not only change what you can do directly inside of NotebookLM, but if you click right here where it says Manage Notebooks, this opens up a page where you can see all of your notebooks. You can organize them into different collections, you can favorite them, you can even quickly generate audio overviews from this column over here on the right. One of my favorite features is podcasts. With this, anytime you generate an audio overview, you can use an automation to automatically add it to a podcast feed that you can subscribe to on your phone, which means that any audio overviews will automatically be downloaded to my phone and I can listen to them while I'm running or while I'm driving from my podcast app. You can also merge notebooks, bulk import. There are notebook templates, source templates, and note templates. If you want to try out Cortex, I'll have a link for it in the description down below. There is a free version of it. And then for a lot of the features I showed you, it just costs $3.75 a month. Or you can sign up for a lifetime subscription for just $99. And there's an additional coupon code here for an extra 30% off. Now, let's get back to the new updates to NotebookLM because, like I said before, the file formats are great, but that's not the big news. There's some other stuff happening under the hood that really makes NotebookLM a lot more powerful. First, NotebookLM has been updated to run on the latest Gemini model, Gemini 3.5. That's going to make it more accurate and more reliable. And you'll also be able to see its thinking process. So if you talk to it in the chat, you may start to notice its thinking process, so you can see exactly how it came to the answer that it gave you in the chat. In addition to the newest model though, the new NotebookLM also runs on anti-gravity, and each notebook is now equipped with a secure cloud computer. This will allow your notebooks to run code to perform deeper research and more complex analysis. If you don't know what that means, it doesn't matter. All you need to know is this makes NotebookLM insanely more powerful and more accurate, and it will be able to help you discover the best sources for your notebooks more consistently directly from the chat. So returning back to our notebook, I can ask it something like this. Based on what we've talked about so far, what are we missing here? What topics should we add as sources? Now, prior to this update, if you wanted to add sources, you would have to do them manually, or you can use this web search function on the left. The problem with this search box is that it wouldn't consider what is already in your notebook, but the agent here inside the chat is considering that. Here it's looking at all the sources we've already uploaded. It's looking at everything we've already chatted about. And from that, it is drawing some information out of that about what is missing from this notebook. Here, for instance, it's telling me that we haven't considered local demographics and the need for a gym in my area. And we haven't looked at things like commercial leasing guidelines. So it's asking me how I wanted to proceed. Should we go down any of these avenues? So I'll say, yes, let's look at local demographics. And now I have some results that are much more tailored to what I need. It's put together this report for me that I can read here, along with these sources. And if I'm happy with all this, I can click on import, and these will now appear over here on the left, both these sources and the research report that was created by the chat. Now, when you combine these two new features, the new output formats and the new performance capabilities, you can unlock some incredible workflows with NotebookLM. Here, I'm going to upload 2 files. I have one file that shows my new gym's ad spend and another file that shows our sales. We can now see both of those on the left. I'm going to unselect all the files and just select those 2. And now I will ask the chat, can you compare my gym's sales to what I spent on ads? And here are the results. It compared both my ad spend and how much revenue the business was bringing in, and it gave me a clear breakdown of which ad campaigns are working the best. But this is just a lot of text and is a little bit difficult to read. That's why the chat made a suggestion. Hey, do you want me to turn this monthly ad spend and revenue data into a clean visual chart? So I'll say yes. About a minute later, and over here on the right, we have this PNG file. Let's open it up. And here we can see a clear breakdown that the more money we spend on ads, the more the business makes exponentially. And over here on the right, we can see a breakdown of how much we're spending across different ad campaigns. Here's another example. I created this notebook called Workout Tracker, and I've put in here some data about some workouts that I've been doing, and I want to measure my strength over time by seeing how many pull-ups I can do every week. This is very easy to do because I can input this data while I'm at the gym directly on my phone. Then I asked the chat to create a chart for me that maps my progress of the number of pull-ups I can do against my workout schedule. And here's what it made. You can clearly see that when I'm training, I'm getting stronger and I'm able to do more pull-ups. And on weeks when I'm traveling and not sleeping well, then the number of reps that I'm able to do dips down. So clearly working out is making me stronger. I think with this new NotebookLM, there needs to be a little bit of a mental shift. In the past, notebooks were really for one purpose, which was to learn new information. Here, for instance, I have a notebook that teaches me how to fly fish. And all the sources in here are from other people, other websites, and other YouTube videos. But with this new NotebookLM, you can create notebooks that are grounded in your data. So for the workout tracker, all the workout information in here is from my workout sessions. This isn't outside sources or outside websites or YouTube videos. This is my data. And now this notebook is grounded in that data, which means that all of the outputs, whether I create them in Studio or here inside the chat, will be grounded in the information and data that I give it. And that brings me to the one big concern I had about this new NotebookLM, which is that I was afraid it would begin to erode what makes NotebookLM so special, which is the fact that it is grounded in the sources that you give it. But I'm happy to say that that erosion is not happening, because anytime you ask it to do research for you, like I showed you before, it will go and find new sources for you, but it will only import them into your sources list if you approve it. And here inside the chat, it's still only using the information that's here in these sources, whether those are from other people or if it's in the data that you give it. Access for the new NotebookLM is currently rolling out. All of that information will be pinned in the comments section down below because it's changing all the time. But that's the new NotebookLM, a huge step forward for what you can do with this already awesome tool. But one thing that may be confusing you is when you should be using NotebookLM and when you should use Gemini. Luckily, I have a video that covers that right here. I go over the best use cases for each tool so you can know exactly which one to use when. So make sure to click on this video and I'll see you over there in 1 second. Bye for now.